The topic for today is superstitious beliefs and practices in medieval Assam, and the speaker is Miss Arifa Begum. I now request the speaker to kindly address the topic.
Respected Sir Professor Muhammad Arifa, respected Sir Nadim Bismi Sir, and my friends, a very good afternoon to all of you. I am Arifa Begum. The topic which I am going to present here is titled Superstitious Beliefs and Practices in Medieval Assam. As all of us we know, Assam is situated in northeast corner of India. The religious beliefs, rites, practices, customs and traditions of the Assamese people was much different from other parts of India. Because of the distance from mainland Indian region, very little information knew by the people of India regarding the Assamese people that time, and it was in the imagination of the people of India that Assamese people knew the art of magic. The only thing with which the Indian people connected Assam was with its formidable sorcery and witchcraft. Hence, the whole region of medieval Assam was famed as the land of sorcery, magic, and witchcraft. The wide prevalence of sorcery and magical rites of medieval Assam was available in the Persian chroniclers and travelers' account. Mention may be made of Moroccan traveler Ibn Battuta, who visited this region in 1346-47. Battuta recorded that the people of this region were noted for their devotion and practice of magic and witchcraft. Abul Fazl in his Aini Akbari also mentions that the people were addicted to the practice of magic and sorcery. Mir Jumla's chronicler Shihabuddin Talis. Shihabuddin Talis who accompanied Mir Jumla to invade Assam in 62-63. Shihabuddin Talis in his Tarikhi Assam also referred to the inhabitants of this land as wizards, magicians and talisman. According to him, every person who set his foot came under the influence of witchcraft and could not find the road to return. So these are the viewpoints of the contemporary Persian chroniclers. Now the question arises whether sorcery and magic was actually practiced in medieval Assamese society or not. So here I am going to highlight what the contemporary source, Burunji and other indigenous source actually mentions or talk about this. So we find several other facts gathered in Burunjis. Actually, Burunjis are the chronicles of Ahom monarchs. It indicated that some superstitions actually prevail in medieval Assamese society. The superstition belief basically refers to luck, astrology, fortune telling, spirits, mantras, etc. that can be found in the activities of medieval Assamese people. Hence, every section of the people believed in omens, charms, spirits, etc. Burunjis reflect superstitious practice carried out by the Thai Ahom rulers. Actually, Ahoms were the ruling dynasty of Assam and they ruled Assam for more than 600 years. The Burunjis mentioned that the Ahoms were the most superstitious race and they had firm faith in omens. The Ahoms believed that their ancestors Kunluk and Kunlai they were sent by God Langdon or God Indra from heaven to rule on earth. Burunjis records that when they Kunluk and Kunlai were about to depart from heaven, God Langdon presented them 4 hawks for telling omens. It is also found that if unusual things happened, the Ahoms considered it a bad omen. Hence, we find one of the Ahom king hastily left the house he was occupying because an owl had perched on it. It is also recorded in Burunjis that before Muhammadiya revolt, actually the Muhammadiya revolt occurred during the latter half of the 18th century. That time, some unusual things happened, and the Ahoms considered that for these unusual things, they considered it a bad omen. They thought some crisis might happen, and owing to this frequent occurrence of inauspicious signs, the officers and nobles, what they did, they removed their property from their houses also. The Ahoms were also so superstitious. We find if their enemy defeated or overpowered them, they thought that it must be through some magic or charms. For example, we find this Muhammadiya revolt that took place and they successfully overthrown the Ahoms for some time. That time also Ahoms thought that They warriors overpowered them by their elegant magical powers, and they owned a bow with the help of which they supposed to fulfill any desire. Another references we also find when the coach commander Chilarai he defeated the Ahoms. That time also Ahoms believed that Chilarai could defeat the Ahom armies with his extraordinary power. The Ahoms also considered the religious saints had supernatural power, and therefore their courts were adorned by religious saints of Vaishnavas, Brahmins, and Muslim peers. One of the Sufi saint, Ajahn Fakir, his two eyes were extracted by the order of Ahom King Gadadhar Singha. And after that incident, what happened? It is said that current of the Thau river was seen flowing back, and the wave in a devastating mode submerged the entire capital. So this incident made the Ahom monarch believe that the being had supernatural power as a result of being repented for what he had committed. King Gadadhar Singha begged his pardon to Ajahn Fakir and conferred him the title Diwan and granted him land. Similar incident also occurred when Krishnaram Bhattacharya, a Sakta saint from Bengal, he returned to Bengal after Ahom King Rudra Singha refused to become his disciple. An earthquake occurred which shattered several temples. The king interpreted the phenomenon as an indication that the saint was a favorite of God, recalled him, and he became his disciple. The Ahoms were also so superstitious in the formation of towns or monuments. They possessed some manuscript called as Tinkai. So they contain the sketches of the lake of the falls is known as Kupura Thang, and that accompanied by an extraordinary note giving the result bad or good. And for this Kupura Thang, they used to select a site where they were going to construct their monuments or temples. So we find differences when they are going to construct their temple at Gorgaon and then to Jorhat. That time also the king asked their pandit to determine the site to study the lake of falls. The region was also famous for astrological calculations from time immemorial. The ancient capital of Assam was known as Pragjyotisha or Pragjyotishpur. Prag means eastern or former, or Jyotisha means star astrology shining. That means Pragjyotisha means eastern astrology. So the Assamese people had a firm belief in astrologers that in every aspect of life, the astrologer prophecy was considered to be the important one. Astrologers held an important place in the Ahom court. They were known as Dolois, who mainly calculated birth, date, and good or bad things that the state would face. We find several famous astrologers, like they are namely Suryavar Surya Vipra, Chandivar Daivasna, Achunanda Daloi, and Churamani Daivasna. They were well known for their astrological calculation, and they adorned the court of the Ahom monarch. We find one difference is that Ahom King Shiva Singha, he was completely under the influence of astrologers, that when astrologer predicted that the king was under the evil influence of the stars, in which he might lose his throne. He was alarmed by the prediction that he not only made lavish presents for the support of temples and brahmanas, but also handed over the government to his chief queen Kuleshwari, and Kuleshwari ruled the government on behalf of King Shiva Singha, titled Bal Raja. And after Queen Kuleshwari, we find Queen Ambika and then Queen Sarveshwari ruled the Ahom government on behalf of King Shiva Singha. Burunji also narrates the part played by astrologers in the military operations. The Ahom soldiers were accompanied by their tribal pandits. They are known as the Bailong and Deothai, who calculated the auspicious time by examining the foul slate. They determined good or bad thing, drawing lines and circles on the ground known as Mongol Swa. The priest calculated the time and direction that the Ahom soldiers followed while attacking their enemy. If their calculations become fruitful, they were rewarded. We find instances like during the time of Ahom King Kamaleshwar Singha in the war with neighboring tribes like Matak and Kacharis, the Pandits checked the fortune by the lake of fowls, they offered prayer and the words of the Pandits turned out true. We also find find define the order advice of the astrologer Suplan. He was the commander of Ahoms who attacked the Muslim armies of Turbak, first crossing the river Brahmaputra, in which the Ahoms suffered a crushing defeat. It was said that, oh Suplan, you first attacked by crossing the river Brahmaputra. The soldiers were attached to the different divisions of the Ahom army, and without consulting the armies, the armies were not allowed their enemy. Mention will be made of Achananta Doloj and Churamani Daivajna. They played important active roles in the Battle of Saraighat against the Mughals. The astrological calculation of Churamani Daivajna was so accurate and infallible that when he advised his army to start on an expedition, victory was confirmed. Mirza Nathan, he was commander of Mughals who was sent by Emperor Jahangir to invade Odisha, Bengal and Assam. Mirza Nathan in his Baharistani Gaidi also speaks of this custom that the Assamese people perform some sorcery before any war. Mirza Nathan says, they send some magic objects floating down the river towards the enemy side. If it floats down towards the enemy side, they take it as forbidding something against them and consider it sign of their defeat, and they do not go out to the battle. The superstitious belief of the Assamese people was also connected to the sacrificing of humans. In the temples of Kamakya, Kachaikhati and temples of Jayanteshwari, humans were also sacrificed to the goddess for the long life of the Ahom king and also as well as for the welfare of the state. Jean-Baptiste Duvalier, he was from France East India Company who visited Assam in the 18th century. He also visited Kamakya temple and he saw the rituals performed to the goddess including animal and human evolutions. David Scott, he was the agent of the British East India Company. He narrated that the superstitious activities of Ahoms, that 101 persons were always sacrificed on the coronation ceremony of a new monarch. This fact is also testified by the contemporary chronicles. Burunji also informed this fact also. And later on, this custom was abolished by Ahom king Rudrasingha. Belief in supernatural beings or spirits and ghosts also widespread among the people. We find King Pratap Singha was frequently possessed by a spirit, for which he was unwilling to ascend the throne. He got rid of the spirit, having appeased Mahadev by constructing a temple. We also find Kathaguru Charita, this is the Vaishnava literature. This also mentions about spirits that lived at the outskirts of near Marshland, near Barpeta, who were forced to abandon the place due to constant congregational prayers conducted by Madhav Deva, who was the Vaishnava saint. To deal with ghosts and spirits, mantras were widely used. Some mantras were used to remove the evil effects of black magic and charms, while others were for driving evil spirits or protecting from the evil eye and curing different types of diseases. Several books on mantras, both in prose and verse, were like Dharani mantra, Shapardharani mantra, Shapekwa mantra, etc., used in the treatment of snake bites. Mantra like Vyadir mantra, Karate mantra used in diseases also. We find mantras like Bhutar mantra, Ketra mantra, etc., Akiras mantra, Jarjana mantra, etc., were used for curing fever and driving away the evil spirits or countering the evil effect of black art. The Ahoms have found faith in the spirits. They also possess several manuscript mantra puthis. And the mantra puthis of Apnam, used for the long life of the king, people and the country. Mantra puthi Fi, used to remove evil influences. Mantra puthi Chura, used to interpret dreams or deal with calculations in order to find out lost articles. Mantra puthi Piban, used to calculate all auspicious days or times for performing marriage ceremonies. For construction of building, commencement of journeys, undertaking of expedition against the enemy. Mantra puthi Andao, containing explanation on the particular position of stars in each month and the influence on the affairs of man. Many people believe in effects of dreams also. Several manuscripts were also composed to interpret and remove the evil effects of dreams. For instance, we find in manuscript Sapnadhaya that explains the dreams and the results occurred according to the time of the night they occurred. Manuscript Sanketa Ganana records how predictions were made regarding one's loss and gain, life and death, happiness, magic and journey. People also worshipped goddesses to cure illness due to their devastation. We find Manasa, goddess Manasa was worshipped during pestilences, diseases, and to ease the snake bite fear. And goddesses Sitalamai was worshipped to cure smallpox. Goddess Akshara was worshipped to remove the evil plans of the fairies. Even the Muslim of this region were well acquainted with various magical charms and their modes of practice. We find when cholera or smallpox appear, they secretly recite mantras. In some of the mantras also, like Arabic words like Bismillah and reference to Allah, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, along with Shiva, Brahma, Tara, also used to be found. The Assamese people had found faith on some particular days of the week and the lunar days, and which were considered auspicious or inauspicious for starting a project or commencing a journey to a distant place. Thus, even a married daughter did not go to her mother's house on the lunar days. Similarly, one should not go to the house on Saturday and Tuesday. No auspicious religious ceremony was observed during the lunar year surplus month. Shihabuddin Talis also records that the Assamese people considered Tuesday night very auspicious, and they used to attack on that night especially. Hence we discussed about the superstitious beliefs and practices of medieval Assam, and for these beliefs, the Persian chroniclers or the Mughal chroniclers not only accused the Assamese people but also informed us of several unusual practices adopted by the Assamese people. We find in the chronicle Kulasaki Kawari that mentioned that the people of Kamrupa were supposed to build houses by the force of magic with pillars and ceilings made of man. With the help of black arts, they transformed man into parts or other animals. However, these accusations and their imagination for transforming man into parts and or other animals cannot be considered true. But regarding the construction of house made of man are found true. David Discord records that in this regarding David Discord records that in the coronation ceremony of Ahom monarch, the heads of sacrifice were placed on the platform, and over which another platform was erected on which the monarch that stood. We also find Ahom King Surumu Dingia Roja, who defeated the king of Chutiya dynasty. The king, along with his son, buried him under the steps at the temple at Choraidev, so that the Ahom king might walk over them whenever he entered the temple. So Muslim historians or chroniclers not only accused, they also accused the Assamese people of killing their officers through charms of witchcraft. We find in 1332-33, when Muhammad Shah sent 10 lakh horsemen by to Assam, the Sultan thought the whole army perished due to the existence of witchcraft. Even it is claimed that Mir Jumla died due to the well-known sorcery of the Assamese. Shihabuddin Talis states that Mir Jumla's fatal sickness resulted from the witchcraft practiced by the Raja of Assam. It was also in their belief that women of Kamrupa practiced magic and enchantment, and they conquered the heart of whomsoever they liked and brought them under their command. And for this, we find Shaista Khan, governor of Bengal that time, he warned Ram Simha on the dangers of Assam expedition. And to deal with the black art, Raja Ram Simha brought 9th Guru Teg Bahadur and 5 priests, they are namely Shah Akbar, Shah Bagma, Shah Sharan, Shah Shufi and Shah Kamal, to undo the effects of Kamrupi black arts. Thus, the above discussion highlights the imagination of the Mughal chroniclers, who regarded this land as magicians, witchcraft. Scared of this well-known witchcraft, many commanders dared not to attack this land twice. It is also widespread that those powerful commanders who could go against Mughal emperor or threaten them were sent to invade this land, as if the commander would not be able to return from this region. Barnier mentions that Mir Jumla was sent to Assam because Aurangzeb justly apprehended that an ambitious soldier could not long remain in a state of repose, and that if he disengaged from that an ambitious from a foreign world, he would seek occasion of exciting internal commotions. Jaduna Sarkar in his History of Aurangzeb also writes, service in Assam was extremely unpopular and no soldier would go there unless compelled. Indeed, there is a reason to believe that Ram Simha was sent to Assam as a punishment for having secretly helped Shivaji escape from the captivity at Agra. It can be also pointed out that the reason for the fear of the Mughals might be the environment itself. dense forests and the rivers of the region, which were unsuitable for them. Several infectious diseases and insects also took many of their lives, and also the environment and climate also, humidity also made them also difficult. But it is fine that whoever adjusts to this environment forsake the idea of living the life. We find several commanders or who went to invade Assam. What they did, they married the local women and settled there permanently. So far as the superstitious beliefs is concerned, it is true, yes, it engulfed every section. It can be mentioned that the people of this region were simple and innocent. They became afraid if unusual things happened. To deal with them, they worshipped gods and goddesses, honored the astrologers and religious saints. They believed that ghosts and spirits were real, and therefore to deal with them, they sacrificed human beings, recite mantras, etc. And several unusual customs were adopted by the medieval Assamese people. Even it is said that witchcraft is widespread in certain places, especially one place, Maya, that is known as Jadoo Desh, that is the land of magic. And in some other areas of this region also, witch hunting is practiced among the illiterate people. On many occasions, women become the victims in the hands of the superstitious villagers. They were threatened or killed or taking them as witches. Thank you.
Anything you want to ask? Or then I will speak. No questions? No queries? तो कुछ सवाल नहीं है? अरे भाई हैरी पॉटर तो सबने देखा है ना, तो कुछ तो पूछोगे? बच्चे थोड़ा सा इनको ऐड करना है इसमें.
I think that you people should be a little more active in asking certain questions.
It's the training time.
Yes, but there should be some questions. Well, it's a really interesting topic, and possibly your PhD topic.
No.
No. A chapter. I don't know anything about Assam, and possibly Arifa would enlighten us much more on this topic. I would just make one comment that superstitions, occult, belief in astrology, astronomy, those things which you discussed today, are not confined only to Assam. Right? Whether it is the sultans of Delhi, whether it is Baba, whether it is Aurangzeb, any of them, Humayun is a good example. I mean, they are given to such occult practices and sacrifices, possibly not human sacrifice, that was too much, but all type of superstitions. Perhaps the fact which you mentioned in the end, that the land is so densely forested with a typical type of climate and lots of mosquitoes, perhaps led to the development of these things which were being circulated about Assam. I'm not very sure whether Mir Jumla was sent to Assam just because Aurangzeb thought that he would get killed out there. I'm not very sure, and that's what some of the historians actually believe. But yes, one thing was very definite, that he would be sent far off from the center of the empire. दूर जाके जो कुछ करे वो अपनी जगह. Secondly, I would ask Professor Arifa to talk a little about these Burunjis on which you are basing. I mean, you keep on telling us the Mughal sources. Where is the Mughal source which you are telling? Except perhaps one or two works done during the period of Maoism. Where are the Mughal sources? Is there any information about the Mughals? I might be totally wrong, but perhaps the only contact between the Mughals and the Assamese took place during the reign of Aurangzeb. थोड़ा सा बिगनिंग शाहजहां के पीरियड में कुछ नहीं करते. Actually, whatever real contact between Assam and the Mughals was, but that was confined only to the reign of Aurangzeb. Burunjis are a very late source. Are they really a source? Are there written accounts? How much can you depend on that? Is it not the present legends being claimed to be past accounts? I would want Professor Parvez to talk on this issue.
Maybe there's something to say. Well, Burunjis are one aspect we need to be very careful about it. See, originally Burunjis were written in Thai Om language. That is the original language which was brought by the kingdom, which was founded by the Thai Om tribe or dynasty, which has migrated from Irrawaddy Valley, from Burma or present-day Myanmar. Unfortunately, people now cannot read that particular language. The last person was perhaps Professor S.K. Pujari, the brother of H.K. Pujari, who was able to decipher it. But some of the early Burunjis which were translated by S.K. Bhuiya, M.I. Gora, are up to some extent one can rely. But obviously, as a historian, when you go to a source, whatever source it is, you have to examine its empirical value. How far you can rely on that? Whether you have any other supplementary information which can supplement whatever the source is saying. And that is one aspect, because see, the Burunjis were also written as late as the 18th century and 19th century. So obviously you cannot rely on those texts which is written in 19th century and 18th century, which is talking about medieval Assam. And therefore you have to be very careful. There is a very good article, perhaps in modern Asian studies, on the source Burunjis. If you have time, you can read about that. So that aspect she has talked about. So far as the Mughal historians are concerned, well, Abul Fazl Aini actually has very little mention. But that information is just like Herodotus information that they used to have very giant hands in India and they used to dug out gold. And that is that kind of, because he talks about that the houses, how the houses were made by the bodies and all that. So obviously his information was very limited. So whatever he has written, a paragraph or two, that has its own limitations. Now see, when you talk about these three words, occultism, black magic and witchcraft, number one, you have to be very careful about it because you cannot put it in a classification. Number one, this is one aspect, because medieval, ancient or modern, this is very different. Because it is coming across the field. That is one aspect which one has to take care of. The other aspect is how it is shaping and how it is factoring into shaping the society or evolution of the society. That is more important. Because if you talk about contemporary Assam, there is a town which is a few kilometers away from Guwahati, which is known as Mayong. And Mayong is still today called as the capital of black magic. And today you will find the people riding a very luxury car and visiting Mayong for various kind of things. Now the issue is why this particular practice, which is irrational, which is not scientifically proven, it's still prevalent in society. That is one aspect. When you come to contemporary period, you will try to find, because lot of crimes, lot of things are happening just precisely due to this reason on the witchcraft issue. Now when I say you have to go across the period, it has a reason. Because you have to consider what happened prior to 9th century. Because see, the Occult kingdom came into existence in 1228 when Thai Occult migrated to Brahmaputra Valley. Prior to that, what was there? In ancient time, if you see Hari Sen's inscription in Allahabad, you will find the name of Kamru or Prajyotishpur. And in 7th century, when Buddhism got divided into another branch which is known as Vajrayana. And see where Vajrayana was very active. You know, Vajrayana has lot of magical rites, lot of different kind of practices. And Vajrayana became very active in Eastern India, in Bengal, as well as in northeastern India today. And precisely from this reason, it has gone over to maybe, this is one aspect which needs examination, to Tibet and China and in different other parts, Burma and beyond. Now Vajrayana has introduced certain kind of attitude in the society. And see the establishment of Kamakhya temple as one of the Sakti peeth. This is another aspect. And we have evidences to suggest that a few years back there was a question of human sacrifices. That is one aspect. We need to examine that also from that perspective. How it is imbibed in the society and how society is reacting to it, responding to it. That aspect is also. In response of these practices, two Bhakti saints emerged in Eastern India, who had played very important role again to reform the society. One is Chaitanya, who was believed to be incarnation of Krishna in his lifetime. And Chaitanya has popularized the Bhakti movement through a particular kind of dance form. And I think anyone who is from Bengal may be knowing about it, baul and some kind of dance, I am not very sure. But that was. Chaitanya's for Radha and Krishna both were very paramount importance. But when you go to Assam, they are immersed in the mid-15th century. Shankardev is another Bhakti saint. And almost in the contemporary time, Azan Fakir emerged. So these, one Sufi, another Bhakti movement, the kind of monastery he has founded. He has founded 4 kinds of Nikayas, Kala, Samhita and others. And the Guru Shishya Parampara which has started, which has diluted the caste system to great extent. And whatever he has done, that is still reflected in society. You can't believe that an SC person, scheduled caste person in North India can marry a Brahmin lady. But that is possible in Assam, precisely due to the Sanghadev's movement. Because they belong to a particular patra, that is a monastery. Now you come to this origin of the Moham dynasty. So basically they were the tribes. And among the tribes, the head hunting was the most common practice. So now you are not confining to history. You have to read social anthropology as well. Only that person is a tribal chief who is more powerful. And only that person is more powerful, जिसके दरवाजे पे सबसे ज़्यादा सर लटका हुआ. So what she said, that the head was placed on a particular platform, that was continuing from that tradition only. And I think you will be surprised, we have information till late 70s, the Naga tribes were involved in head hunting. Now, don't say that this is a barbarian thing or this or that. See, head hunting, if you look at from a Marxian perspective, we can say it is also a kind of production, social production. Because why they were coming to head hunting for the plain areas? Because they needed carpenters, they needed ironsmiths, because they need tools, they need arms, which they were not able to produce. So they need persons from the plain area. And therefore, time and again they were involved in head hunting. So whatever is there, the occultism, black magic and other things which prevailed in society, don't think that it rampantly went like that. There were challenges to it. But by and large, we still find, if you read this report, particularly this report from the Guwahati Regional Center, you will find that that is still prevalent in the society. So what as a historian you have to link? You have to provide a dialogue between, you remember Yashkar? Dialogue between past and present. So that's what you need to do. That is important. I hope I could have satisfied you, otherwise there is something more to say on that. Anyway. Perhaps a book will be shortly out on this theme. Primus is publishing it, where we have some chapters. I have also one chapter, and there are some more. This book will be, I think, by this month or next month. That will provide. That book is on black magic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us on this topic, and thank you everyone for coming. Is there any other question you want to ask, sir, regarding this? So, thank you all for coming, and the next seminar will be on Thursday, 28th July, in the same room at the same time at 2 o'clock. And the topic will be Indian women and the movement for independence. And
we have admission test.
The speaker will be Eman Usmani. Thank you all.